Yo, what's good, Spirit Squad? Today we're going to be playing a bit of Pioneer, as usual, and here we're going to be playing an Azorius build, which is, of course, how this entire channel started. We've been playing Azorius Spirits in Modern for, God, 4.5 years now, something like that. It's been a while. Anyway, we're going to be playing a Spirit Control deck, and that's going to be inspired by a Japanese list that just came to my attention a couple of days ago. And this thing is really sweet. It goes a little bit bigger on spirits, which is a theme that we've explored before. If you remember the Yorian spirits build that we checked out in Modern. Here, what we have going on, excuse me, is going to be most of your regular spirits squad that you normally see. So we still have our Mausoleum Wanderers, we still have Rattle Chains, we have Spell Quellers, and that's about where the similarities end. Everything else here is going to be designed for a more flash-based, bigger plan. So here we've got 4 copies of Spectral Adversary, which is a card that we've played before, and it's a card that I've been impressed by, even when it's just a Rattle Chains 5 through 8. But since this deck wants to go a little bit bigger, you'll be using the kicker effect a little more often than you would normally in a deck like Mono Blue. We've got 2 copies of Selfless Spirit, again, usual culprits. We have 2 copies of Cemetery Illuminator, which is a card that I've been impressed by in the past, and I actively love this card. We've got 2 copies of Brazen Bar, which is another card that I've been sliding in and out of my spirits lists, but here, since you want to go a little bit bigger, the bounce spell, Petty Theft, will give you lots of time against a lot of decks where you really do just want to get to your stuff. Because, of course, our base plan of flying over our opponents is always really nice. But you still got to get there sometimes against the faster decks. And Petty Theft will help you get there. Now we get to the cool stuff. We, of course, have our Spell Quellers and Mausoleum Wanderers for counter spells, but we're going back to playing Lofty Denial, which is a card that we've played plenty of in the past and has been one of the best counter spells in all of Pioneer. In my opinion, it's the second best counter spell in the entire format. You know, second to Geistlight Snare, which we also could be playing, but, you know, that's not the deck we're playing today. We have 2 copies of Shark Typhoon. And if you remember that the list that we played for Mono Blue in Explorer a while ago played 2 copies of Shark Typhoon, sometimes even 3, as a bit of a extra bit of card advantage against Rakdos lists, this list is going to be doing basically the same thing there. We're going to be able to cycle for some giant flyers. It's going to be really good against a lot of decks, especially decks that play counter spells, like your opposing Mono Blue Spirits pilots or Blue-White Control. We have 2 copies of Archangel Avacyn, which, oh boy, I love this card. I actually love it so much that I have 2 copies IRL just in case I ever found a list that played them or wanted to go a little bit bigger in something that ended up being like this, so that we can have effectively extra copies of Selfless Spirit in our deck, but we get to go a little bit bigger. And if you end up sacrificing one of your own creatures like a Selfless Spirit or Mausoleum Wanderer, you can control when the Archangel Avacyn triggers, and against decks like, say, Mono White, you can transform and then anger the gods all of the stuff on the table, which is super sweet. Of course, you'll still come out with a 6/5 flyer. Just very, very good stuff all around, and of course, she helps you stick to the flash plan. And that really brings us to the removal part of the deck now, because we're playing removal. Woo! We get to play 4 copies of Portable Hole, which, remember, the last Bant video that we had addressed the fact that Pioneer has become a very aggressive format. Decks like Mono Red are good, Mono White is very good. We have, of course, opposing Spirits pilots in both Bant and Mono Blue, and 4 copies of Portable Hole in the main will address all of those things. We also don't necessarily want to be on the other side of things like Blood Tithe Harvesters on the other side of the table, so it's just nice to have. And then we're also playing 2 copies of Fateful Absence, which I think is a really, really good removal spell right now. Like Blue-White Control is already playing cards like Fateful Absence, and it's good enough in those decks, even though your opponents are going to be drawing cards off of the clue. But the upside to a card like Fateful Absence in Spirits is that even though we're not like the full aggressive builds that are Mono Blue, Bant, or Watcher of the Spheres based Azorius decks, we still have a very respectable clock, which means that if your opponent pays 2 mana to pop their clue and draw a card, that's still 2 mana that they're using to not deal with your threats, all of which still need to be respected. Remember, we're still playing things that are protected by Selfless Spirit, by Rattle Chains, by Archangel Avacyn. So your opponents will still need to respect your threats, and each time they pop a clue, that's 2 mana that they're using to not solve the problems you're presenting. So I actively really love this card. And that's going to be the main deck. Here, we also have a bunch of pretty useful lands, and honestly, I don't know that this is going to be the final configuration that I use for a land base, but let's talk about what we got going on here. We've got 1 copy of Otawara and 2 copy of Eiganjo. In this deck, we're playing 24 lands, so drawing a 2nd copy of Eiganjo is kind of acceptable because you will be using that as a removal spell, preferably in a lot of scenarios. Like if your opponent's playing a deck like Mono White, attacks with Adeline, you can Eiganjo, and that evades Brave the Elements because Eiganjo is not a colored spell of really any sort. Lands are colorless, even if they tap for white. You have 2 copies of Field of Ruin here, which is a pretty new addition. The list that we were inspired by played all 4 copies of Field of Ruin in the main. I'll be honest, I don't know if I like that, but I do like the idea of 2. Just enough to get rid of nonsense like Hall of Storm Giants from the opposing players, or if they're into that Book of Exalted Deeds Mutavault nonsense, you have 2 main deck outs to that. So I do like the idea of that. We've got 2 copies of Deserted Beach, which is a card that we've played in blue-white before, and I've been medium impressed by it. However, the list that we were playing before were also playing cards like Curious Obsession, which really means that your lands need to come into play untapped on turn 2. This is not the case with this deck. So I assume that I will be a little more impressed by Deserted Beach in a bigger style of deck like this than I have been in the past in the Curious Obsession builds. We also have 1 each of Castle Vantress and Castle Ardenvale, and these are honestly my biggest question marks for this style of deck. So I do like the fact that these are utility lands, and Castle Vantress especially can be really good in this, where you're already not tapping out super often on your own turn anyway. But if I'm being completely honest, I don't know that I don't want these to just be Hall of Storm Giants. So we'll discover over the course of the league here, or actually we're going to be playing a prelim. I don't think I'm going to play a league. I'm going to play a 4-match preliminary event. I might want those to be Hall of Storm Giants, because if we're going to be playing a little bit more of a slower control-y plan, it might end up being the case that we really just want our, excuse me, we just want our lands to actually be able to be attackers, instead of just being like very slow clocks like Castle Ardenvale, or just like not getting them dead like Castle Vantress, even though I think Castle Vantress is very good. I think Castle Ardenvale is easily the worst of the 2, but it's still serviceable, so I'm still going to try it. In our sideboard here, we've got 2 copies of Remorseful Cleric, and this is a card that I've wanted to play against decks like Greasefang for a while, right? Like, if you play Unlicensed Hearse, it already loses to cards like Witherbloom Command, cards like, say, Abrupt Decay, things like that. But Remorseful Cleric being a spirit means a couple of things for us. A, you can play at instant speed with the Rattle Chains out, which is already a huge plus against decks like Greasefang that are just trying to do a thing, resolve Greasefang, hiya. But if you have a Rattle Chains out, you can ruin that entire plan. Also, it attacks. That's nice. So like if your opponent's just kind of like stuck dirtling, right, and they're just doing whatever, and you end up just having a Remorseful Cleric on the table, you can actually hit them, which is nice. We've got all 4 copies of Skyclave Apparition in here, and honestly, that might be too many Skyclaves, but I like the idea of it against decks like Mono White and things like that. We've got 1 each of Lyra and Baneslayer Angel. The deck that we took inspiration from was playing copies of Dream Trawler, which is very good, but I think in the matchups where we want them, being 5 mana is going to be a lot better than 6 mana, because like Mono Red might just not give you the chance to get to turn 6, but getting to turn 5 is relatively reasonable. So I think the 1 turn difference actually does mean a lot in this archetype here. We've got 2 copies of Aether Gust, and this is going to be our nod to Mono Green being very good. It is still the most popular deck in the format. I don't know if it's the best deck in the format. I think that might still be Rakdos, but it's definitely the most popular lately. So we've got 2 copies of Aether Gust there, and of course they've got lots of upside against Mono Red. 2 copies of Negate live here, and I'm choosing Negate rather than Dovin's Veto, and that's the thing that I've been doing for a while, because this deck is not necessarily guaranteed to have you know, just blue-white all the time, it's pretty likely. But in the event that I have like Otawara plus Field of Ruin or Island plus Island, those are still hands that I'm going to want to keep a lot of the time. So we're going to be playing negates to facilitate that a lot more often. Especially if I turn this Castle Ardenvale into a Hall of Storm Giants down the road. And then we've got 3 copies of Mystical Dispute. So being a slower blue deck than the regular Spirits builds we have, we are susceptible to Spirits, actually, which is hilarious. Like, we're building a Spirits deck that has a pretty mid Spirits matchup. So, of course, things like the Shark Typhoon and the bigger flyers are going to be nice and handy, right? Like the Archangel Avacyn. But it still will come into play that we just really want Mystical Dispute. So we're going to play 3 copies to fight that fight. And that'll be true against both Bant and Mono Blue. I like that a lot. And of course, blue-white control is still one of the most popular decks in the format. So on top of the negates, we've got the Mystical Disputes, and now your opponent's going to have a really hard time fighting against our flash-based plan, which is already pretty good. So we get to do things like, you know, against blue-white control, for example, we get to take out cards like Fateful Absence and Portable Hole that we're not really needing in these matchups, and instead putting in like Mystical Disputes and negates, and their day is just as miserable as it is against other versions of Spirits, except we have additional outs to things like their Supreme Verdicts and Archangel Avacyn. Say that 5 times fast. But that's going to be our deck. I'm pretty excited to play this. I think the slower version of this deck is going to be pretty good against all of the creature-based decks in the format because there are a ton of them right now. So yeah, let's move on to round 1 of this prelim. Let's solve today's Moxel, and yeah. Fingers crossed. Good luck. Okay, today's Moxel. Let's start with Aegis. I think I like this as a starting point, right? Like you have 3 vowels and S. And okay. So there's no A, E, or I, so the vowels are just gonna be O or U, but we have an S. So I guess let's try Snowy. Oh, hey! Alright. So lots and lots of progress already. Let's try Sloth now. So now we've learned there's a T. So let's try Stomp. Maybe the front half of Bone Crusher Giant? S-T-O something M. Well, Brian Cook, this one's for you. And we got there. Nice. He will probably enjoy learning that happened today. Let's move on to the gameplay. Okay, round 1, we're on the draw, and we are going to put this 1-lander back, and we've got a 2-lander that is not actually great if you ask me, but I have a 5-drop I can put back. I've got a land that comes into play tapped on turn 1, and on turn 2 I can play Mire Darker Waste, so like this is fine. We're probably playing against mono green. That actually is a lot better. So I can play my Mausoleum Wanderer here, and realistically, on the draw against mono green, this is not actually like a good hand, but it still technically does stuff. Okay, so they have a mega shit ton of mana here, and what can I do? I can bounce the Wolf Willowhaven to bring them down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana next turn, but I don't know that that's necessarily super relevant because it cuts them off of casting exactly Storm the Festival, but I already have a Mausoleum Wanderer that can do that, and I don't have the ability to cut them off of Karn or anything else here, so I think I'm just stuck letting them untap. They have an Oath of Nissa, sure thing. And they do find a Cavalier of Thorns. So against Cavalier, I can do a couple of things. I can play the adversary in response. I don't think I want to do that. So what I think I want to do here is let the adversary resolve, and with this trigger on the stack, I can Fateful Absence here. And what this does is it denies them the ability to use its Dies trigger, even though they're still going to be able to find a land and stuff. So they can put like this Lair of the Hydra that they found into play tapped, and then just kind of keep it pushing here. And then I can untap with 3 mana in play, exile the Cemetery Illuminator, and then hopefully the card advantage that this gives me will at least give me the ability to do something cool. So they have 3 cards in hand, and we obviously have no idea what they could be. So I think I am going to do exactly that. I'm going to do this pre-combat so that I still have the ability to, well, you know, pump my Mausoleum Wanderer, attack for 2, and still kind of cry a little if they have a Storm the Festival because I can no longer counter it with Mausoleum Wanderer. But without a Rattle Chains, I think this might still be my best way to be able to win this game. Gross. Okay. Well, that's fine because with 3 mana, I was never going to be able to counter this with a Mausoleum Wanderer anyway. Like, what we really needed was like a Lofty Denial for the adversary instead of a Fateful Absence, but that's not the hand we had, so oh well. Okay, so they find another Nykthos that they get to use with Karn, and Karn is going to find a what? Okay, Karn finds a Battle Boat, which I am actually mostly okay with. So here, what I'm going to do is get to attack and kill Karn, and I want to get rid of an instant, so here's that. So now Karn's going to die, and
power off.
Of course, as always, we forget to turn the Bluetooth speaker off. Name a more iconic duo, right? So what I'm going to do here is shock this in, and they can cast Battle Boat. If they go to kill the Cemetery Illuminator, I'll be able to Spectral Adversary and kick it to protect my Cemetery Illuminator. So that's not all bad. Cavalier, however, is all bad. Gross. Okay. Yeah, that sucks. I can't do anything about that. So now they have... they don't find a land off of Cavalier, which I guess is better. They still have 3 mana after this too. Yikes. Okay. And that is what they're planning on doing here. So let's Spectral Adversary. Mausoleum Wanderer is going to grow. That's whatever. And I definitely want to do this so that I can at very least protect my Cemetery Illuminator. What? Oh my god, where's my ability? Are you kidding? Alright, I think that actually seals it. I don't know why it didn't let me use the mana I had for that, but realistically, I don't think I was winning that game anyway. So, Aether Gust, Negates come in, Skyclave Apparitions come in, cards that I don't really need here. Yeah, so not gonna lie, I can't say I know what happened there, but I think that was a game I was losing anyway, so oh well. Alright, so we'll play a turn 1 Deserted Beach and see what happens with our next turn here. We have the combination of Lofty Denial and Spectral Adversary, which is nice. I don't think I'm gonna Portable Hole here. No, I will. So that stops them from playing a turn 2 Kiora, which is pretty big. Here, if they have a Wolf Willowhaven, then I can at least Skyclave that. And that applies to this Skyclave Apparition too. Oh, that's even better. Yeah, I want to do that more. So let's Portable Hole the Llanowar Elf now, and I can still hold up either Spectral Adversary or Lofty Denial, and I like both options. Aw, yeah, I do love it to when my opponents don't do anything. That's perfect. And now my Lofty Denial is actively good. A Rattle Chains is also pretty good because that enables me to cast plus Lofty, and then later on, I can have access to an instant speed Skyclave Apparition, so I really like that. One thing that I was a little worried about while attacking with the Spectral Adversary was, like, walking myself into a copy of, walking myself into a copy of Skylasher, and I still have 2 mana up, so that is still a possibility. But I think I'm okay with the way this is going so far. And we find a land. So now, even if they have something like Skylasher, I can still Skyclave plus hold up Lofty Denial. And it looks like that's not even going to happen, so I'm good there. And I'm not going to Skyclave the Wolf Willowhaven unless it's at the end of this coming up turn. Here they can tap out for, like, I don't know, some scary 4-drop, but Kiora, that can happen. Because I can remove Kiora with the Skyclave. So, okay, so now I'm going to have them in combat. I get to get rid of Kiora here, just to make sure I wasn't being baited. Sick, they're off it. And now let's move to game 3. I don't think I want to change anything about my configuration here. I like what's going on, so we'll simply keep it. However, this time they're going to be on the play, which is much scarier. Yeah, I'm in for this. All right. A wise person once said, bolt the bird, Portable Hole the elf applies as well. Ooh, more do nothings. All right, I'm in for that. So now, if they're going to do nothing with this, then I can Rattle Chains end of turn to enable Skyclave Apparition at instant speed if I want to be doing that. And I can't currently do anything about the Kiora, so that's kind of whatever. And it looks like they're not going to come up with another elf either, so I'm pretty okay with that. I'm going to put in the castle. So what happens here? If I Skyclave the Kiora, they can untap and play a 4-drop like Karn, which on its own isn't actually that scary. Oh my god, I played a white... I didn't play my Hallowed Fountain. Never mind, can't do that. Welp, time to cuss. If they have a land, then I am going to feel very stupid because they're going to be able to play a 5-drop. Yeah, that was bad. Are you kidding me? Oh god, I'm going to feel so stupid. Alright. Old Growth Troll. Well, I can spell queller that, so I'm going to. But that doesn't mean I don't feel really stupid anyway. So now if they Wolf Willowhaven, I can, that's fine. Another Spectral Adversary is not terribly helpful. So let's go ahead and attack. Do I want to attack the Kiora or their face? I think I'm going to attack their face, Skyclave the Kiora. I can also just attack Kiora and then Portable Hold this, leaving up Spectral Adversary mana, but without the kicker, I don't think that's actually good. So I'm going to attack them and get rid of Kiora. I am still a little sad because now I don't have the ability to get rid of like a Storm the Festival if they have one. But at least they have to have another land to do so. And I'm just going to do this in the main phase. I'm not going to like get cute or anything here. So let's do that. And then this way, if I draw a land for the next turn, I can Portable Hole plus Old Growth Troll on its own is actually fine. I don't really care about that so much. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not preferable for them to have it, but realistically, as far as situations go, it could be a lot worse. And a cool thing here is that even if they have a land now, they can't actually play a 6-drop, which is really nice for me. And if they fire up a Lair of the Hydra, I'll be able to at least Field of Ruin it. So a lot of problems are currently close to being solved. Oath of Nissa can enable something like a Teferi, which is pretty good. They find Sylvan Caryatid, which I honestly don't really care about. Oh, they're not even going to attack. Okay. Do I care about phasing this out because I can't attack with Skyclave through a Sylvan Caryatid anyway? Yeah, I don't really think I do care about that. So I think I'm just going to solve the Lair of the Hydra problem now. Grab us a basic plains, and then just put in a Spectral Adversary to make the clock a 2-turn clock. Yeah, I like that a lot better. And this way, even if they have like a Cavalier of Thorns or something coming off the top, I can Spectral Adversary, phase it out, untap, and finish them off. This also plays around them having like a Voracious Hydra for my Spell Queller. Iganjo is whatever. Don't really care about that in this context here. But just playing it as a 6 land is really nice, because now my Spectral Adversary can remove 2 things from play. They can play land, Storm the Festival, as their scariest thing. Sick. But even if they did that and they found 2 Cavalier of Thorns, my Spectral Adversary was still just going to be able to remove both. So that was really one of those all bases covered kind of games. And yeah, let's move on to round 2. All right, round 2 is here. We're on the draw, but I am not sad about my hand. We've got Mausoleum Wanderer into Counterspell, into Spell Queller, so yeah, let's keep this and find out what our opponent is playing. Temple Garden, so we're probably playing against Greasefang. That makes my Counterspells really... Oh yes! Even better! Let's go, Cemetery Illuminator. Rafine's Informant, that informs us that we are right about what we were playing against. And they have a Seeker's Chariot. Got it. So I don't really mind a Seeker's Chariot coming down. So what I'm going to do here is simply play my Darker Waste, get my lovely little attack in, and from here, life is looking okay. So I can, next turn, depending on what I draw, kind of choose between playing Mausoleum Wanderer plus Counterspell or holding up Spell Queller. That is very much not happening, opponent. I will take this 3, though. So here we have a choice. I can play the Cemetery Illuminator, get rid of a Seeker's Chariot, and from there just kind of make sure that I'm not super stressed out about them reviving this, but then they could just hardcast one, right? So that's kind of poor. I can hold up Spell Queller, which I think is what I want to do now that I've drawn this, and then starting next turn, after I Spell Quell something this turn, I can draw a land and then have Lofty plus Spectral Adversary, or if I don't draw a land, have Mausoleum plus Lofty, and either way that's pretty good. So yeah, let's run it. So now let's see if they play something post-combat, and it looks like the answer is no, so I'm just going to get to jam my Spectral Adversary here, and that doesn't exactly make me sad, right? Is this a Grizzly Salvage? It is. Yeah, that's fine. So they actually find a couple of pretty good things here. They find a Parhelion, they find a Tasker that they can put into hand and maybe cast next turn. They also just like find a Greasefang, so honestly, as far as Grizzly Salvages go, that was pretty much perfect. And they choose the Greasefang to put into their hand. So now let's draw a land. We can also just not draw a land. I guess that works. So let's instead get my attack in here, and I'll be able to hold up Spell Queller / Lofty. And I think I'm okay with that. Here, I would really have loved to have drawn a Rattle Chains rather than Spectral, because that makes this instant speed. But since we don't have that, I'm still relatively satisfied with holding up, like, I actually am going to Spell Quell this, because not only does it make life a little hostile for them if they don't have a land drop, but also I'm still evading, like, a Fatal Push, for example, because I've got my Mausoleum Wanderer up here. So I'm still pretty okay with this. And if they want to attack, I don't really care about that. I'll just take the 3. And we do find a land. Nice, nice. that means I want to double Mausoleum Wanderer, hold up the Lofty. Yeah, I like that. And I'm going to play these pre-combat so that I'm able to pump my one that can attack here, get in for 7, and now they're on a 1-turn clock, which is nice. So now they got to get through a Lofty Denial and 3 Mausoleums just to live. So I'm pretty happy about that. And we get to go into game 2. So here we've got Remorseful Clerics. I don't really think I want the Angels here. I definitely don't really want Portable Holes. So I will put in 2 of the Skyclaves, I guess. Or I could put in Negates. Now, what do I want more? Skyclaves or Negates? I think the answer is Negate. So their backup plan of doing the Greasefang thing is just like cast a Seeker's Chariot and trust that card to be good. And that plan is actually pretty good. So I think I would rather put a stop to that than trying to Skyclave things. Yeah, I am super in for this. So now I've got a Mausoleum Wanderer, and Rattle Chains can enable a Remorseful Cleric. And since I'm on the draw, this is going to be one of those games where I will still be pretty glad to like counter a Grizzly Salvage with that. So let's put this on blue and start casting cards. And that's fine, I guess. So now they can resolve like the Grizzly Salvage here. And if this is like a Satyr Wayfinder that finds a, what's this? They find a Parhelion. Okay. So, ooh, that's a great draw actually. So I'm going to play you for white and simply cast this. So now they can't really do the Greasefang thing because I can Remorseful Cleric. And if they kill this, I can just respond by still doing the Remorseful Cleric thing. So they can just, yeah, I was gonna say they can just like resolve Greasefang and have a 4/3 beater, which is a bit obnoxious. But here I get to just hold up things like Spell Queller, Rattle Chains, and go from there. So it's not a preferable race because they just have a 4/3, but we're on the draw, so that's the best thing that we were able to come up with, which is still fine. So the scariest thing here, I guess, oh, that's not it. They haven't played a land, so I think what I want to do is counter this anyway. If they have exactly untapped green land, find something else, then I guess you got me, but I think this is going to give me the most play. So yeah, if they have, oh hooray. So now I have double Rattle Chains to hold up and protect the Spell Queller, so that's really good. Oh no! Okay, not gonna lie, I'm a little bit in that I'm in danger meme zone, and I think if my opponent just like casts a Seeker's Chariot here, I will probably just put in double Rattle Chains and like try to leave it to a race, but I understand that we're not winning that race. And the worst part about having this resolve too, right, is if they cast a Seeker's Chariot and say I had a card like Lofty Denial to counter it, then it's just in the graveyard to be reanimated, which sucks. Sky Sovereign's actually not that bad because I have the Rattle Chains, so like I can at least protect against that. And here, if they go ahead and swing with Greasefang, I will put in the other Rattle Chains and double block. So at least this way they have to like kind of start over. And if I draw something nice, then I can get away from the Greasefang, or sorry, the Sky Sovereign as well. So still not preferable, but, oh, that was honestly not great as far as draw steps go. Okay, so let's attack here, put this up, and threaten the ability to activate Castle Ardenvale. So if this is a can't stay away, then we are just dead, but at least we have the ability to counter this and make them have a can't stay away. If one of their 2 cards is a Rafine's Informant that can crew Sky Sovereign, then that's really bad. But it looks like that's not it. So now let's draw another piece of counter magic. Thank you, deck, for being very cooperative. So now what happens? I can Spell Queller something. Okay, I was gonna say if they cast Grizzly Salvage, I was just gonna let that rock. But as it stands, stop it. Please do not have Rafine's Informant. I mean, I'm sure they just drew the Greasefang, but still. Drawing something that crews the Sky Sovereign is incredibly scary from here. Well, we are no longer doing the ultra oppressive stuff, so let's hope they just like don't have a way to get Greasefang back. I really want them to try to Thought Seize this island. Are we dead to that? I think the answer is yes, right? Because they can like crew the Chariot, use the Chariot, crew the Sky Sovereign, attack here, and what am I doing from there? I think the answer is close to nothing, so I'll just move to game 3. And what do I want to change from here? I think the answer is nothing. We'll just go ahead and resubmit. But here we get to actually be on the play this time, which is going to be nice. And our hand, this is fine. So I would prefer like another land or 2, but my entire hand can be cast at instant speed. I've got a turn 2 that I don't really care about, but that's good because if they dirtle, then I can just present Spectral Adversary as a threat, right? And then one more land lets me Spell Quell. So yeah, I'm in for this. Thank you! And I actually kind of like the Field of Ruin here. because I don't know that Greasefang decks even play. Like, I don't even know that these people play Raffine's Informant. I actually think I should Lofty that. I'm going to Lofty that, because now I can just untap, play Spell Queller, and then just kind of like be a little bit oppressive from there with my mixture of, ooh, that's nice. So now I want one more land, another Raffine's Informant. So I'm going to Spell Quell this and hope to draw a land so that I can play Remorseful Cleric. Oh my god, we have two. Nice. All right. What do I want to do here? I can hold up Negate / Spectral Adversary to counter a Isika's Chariot, untap, try to draw a land for double Remorseful Cleric. Because if I Remorseful Cleric now, then they can just Fatal Push it, and I don't have Negate up, and I don't like that. So let's just let them untap. I do really want one more land. Satyr Wayfinder. You got it. And they find no land, and no vehicle in the graveyard. So, all right, cool. I'm in for that. What is this? Is it another Satyr Wayfinder? A can't stay away targeting a second Wayfinder. I mean, I'm not going to negate that. You got it. This time they don't find a land, but they find 2 Parhelions, 3 Parhelions, and a Greasefang. Okay. So here I'm just going to play my Spectral Adversary and untap. Land? No land, but a Rattlechains is, Okay. So this isn't the end of the world here. So even without a land, if they go land into... No, I'm definitely casting this. What am I doing? So now they can't resolve a can't stay away profitably. They can't resolve a Greasefang profitably. Yeah, okay, this is way better. There was like no reason to even really think about that too hard, if I'm being honest. So Sky Sovereign sucks because this can get back a Raffine's Informant. Oh, okay, that's pretty good for me. So I'm okay with them basically wasting an entire turn on that because I still have Negate in case they just want to like Sky Sovereign me. But I still really do want this other land. And there it is. Perfect. So now I don't want to go so far as to say that I think we have this in the bag, but it's looking pretty good. I will simply pass the turn. So if they try to target this with something like an Abrupt Decay, I can Rattlechains, and then I can still flash in something that's irrelevant because they just scooped. Perfect. So now we're going to be 2-0 over the 2 out of the 3 most popular decks in the format. So good thing so far. Let's move on to the next round. All right, round 3 is here. We are on the draw. And yikes, I would like to draw something very different. And this is something very different. Sweet, thank you. So we're going to keep this. I'm going to put back Fateful Absence and see what our opponent ends up being on. Blooming Marsh. So are we against another Greasefang pilot? Probably. Well, something's leaving. They take the Spell Queller, which means that, that's not good. But we have Spectral Adversary, we have Lofty Denial, so a turn 3 Greasefang is taken care of, and if it turns out after that we need to worry about other things, then I guess we'll have the ability to do that with Iganjo. So just like an attacking Greasefang isn't good enough on its own anymore. So let's do this, and I can worry about either Greasefang or Lofty, whichever comes up. Satyr Wayfinder, so they want to find a land drop, and I don't think I can really afford to not let them, so whatever, they got it. They find a Pathway, a Blooming Marsh, and a Temple Garden, so they have lots of options, and they take the Temple Garden. You got it. So now I'm just going to go ahead, play this, and we know where 2 Greasefangs are too, which is nice, and this is especially good. So let's go ahead and just play the Darker Wastes, get our first attack in here, and I'll be pretty happy holding up 2 counter spells, right? Because now if they want to just like, can't stay away the Greasefang, I have a counter for that. If they want to cast Isika's Chariot in main phase 2, I also have a counter for that. Stitcher Supplier, however, I will be doing nothing about. They find a Parhelion, and a Hallowed Fountain is the draw. So I'm going to play Castle Ardenvale here because I do want to give myself the ability to cast double Lofty if need be, and then next turn I can play the Hallowed Fountain and threaten to start using this. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and take this 3, go down to 14, and we're just going to untap here. Another Darker Waste is actually better than Hallowed Fountain here because if I'm just going to tap all white mana anyway, then I don't really care about these because they can still make colorless. Do want to be just a little careful though because they are at 12. That is a life total that at least needs to be kind of respected. So I go to 11 here, and I will make our first soldier token. Right, soldier? No, human. Can you tell how often I've played this card? I don't even know what kind of tokens it makes. All right, so let's go ahead and get our attack in for 3 here, and I will play Iganjo. That'll let me play this Mausoleum Wanderer, and I still have the mana to activate Castle Ardenvale if they want to just race. I can hold up double Lofty, even though it's painful, that's still okay. That is much less okay. And now we know where 3 Greasefangs are too, so their combo plan is, I won't go so far as to say off the table, but it's much less likely to be relevant. So here they're going to attack for 2 of these, turning my attack here kind of off, but like, I don't even know if that's actually true, right? I'm not going to block with this though. So this can counter like a can't stay away. Oh, that's really good for us actually. All right, so I am going to shock in, then I'll go to 6. And let's attack for 3. They actually did find a 4th Greasefang. Nice, nice. Good job, opponent. So we will Lofty that. They're not going to get to do the thing. And I've got a giant Shark Typhoon token coming in, so let's go. And yeah, whatever, I'll block here. Ha! Cycle the Shark. And that's exactly 6. Heck yeah. Next game. Back to Remorseful Clerics, back to Negates. What did we take out last time? Selflesses and Avacens, I believe? No, Portable Holes. These are pretty bad. Our hand this time is, pretty decent. It's not great on the draw, but I can at least present the threat of a turn 3 Cemetery Illuminator. A Negate can shut down something later. Yeah, alright, I'll try it. This would be much, much, much better on the play than it is on the draw. But our opponent's also taking a mulligan, which is pretty nice because it makes this much more likely to be able to actually do its thing. So if Negate can kind of stave off the bad things for like a turn, then Cemetery Illuminator has the ability to at least do its job. If we get Thought Seized here, I think that's actually fine. Like, yeah, sure, they take this, but they're only working with 3 more cards because they had to mulligan, so like, I'm okay with this. Okay, so they do find a Seder Wayfinder, and they find a land, which is really good for them. No vehicle though, so I'm pretty happy about that part. And here I'm just going to play this as a blue land. And then next turn, I can present Field of Ruin, which is also pretty good because I can just like rip this away because a basic swap's already in play. If they don't play more than 1 basic, then that's going to look really good. All right, so I'm going to play the Spectral Adversary, and this is really no extra information. They already knew I had this, and they resolve a Grisly Salvage, which I think is actually mostly fine. No vehicle. Okay, but they do put a Greasefang into their hand. Castle of Anthress. So the castles will be pretty good later. Before I decide whether to use this, let me look up whether they play a basic Plains in a deck anywhere. Okay, looks like this deck does not play a basic Plains. Like, I'm looking at a couple of lists here. There's a basic swap, there's a basic swamp, and here's another just basic swamp. So it looks like that's going to be a relatively safe Field of Ruin. So I can take them off of double green here, and since they didn't have the, I will grab a Plains. They already have their basic swamp too, so that's actually just a strip mine. So that was pretty cool. So now let's see if this actually ends up mattering though. If they have like already have a white source in hand and then can cast Greasefang, then perfect. Witherbloom Command. Okay, so they're going to be able to put a land back in hand. Do they have a white land? No, they just have an Overgrown Tomb. Okay, didn't think so. Ah, boo. All right, fine. You got me. A Lofty, that's pretty good. So here I'm going to play Castle of Anthress. I already have an island, so I can do a couple of things here. I can cast Lofty Denial at Greasefang, and if it is a scenario where I need to put Spectral Adversary into play first to allow that, that's okay. And here I can actually counter an Asika's Chariot if they shock to put that into play, but it looks like that's not going to be what happens here, so that's fine. Post-combat Greasefang is going to catch my Lofty, and I don't mind just putting in the Spectral Adversary here. An island is honestly not super helpful. I am going to need a little bit of help aside from this negate here. Data Wayfinder is okay. I mean, not really, but I can't do anything about it, so it's going to have to be okay. They find a Parhelion, so if they have another Greasefang in hand, then I am just kind of dead on the spot. All right, tapped land. Okay. Okay, so they're not going to attack into my Castle Ardenvale, but that's fine because I already just wanted to use Castle of Anthress anyway. Mausoleum Wanderer Island? I don't want either of those cards. So bottom and bottom. Okay, that's fine. I just said I didn't want that. So let's see, what do they have? They do have a Can't Stay Away here. They have a Fatal Push for that. Their hand is empty, which is good to know. Okay, so now if they want to resolve a Can't Stay Away targeting Greasefang, they are allowed to try that. I do, of course, have the negate. And then from there, I'm still going to have to start drawing stuff, but at least it's more likely to happen. Perfect draw would be like a Cemetery Illuminator off the top would be super good. All right, so that I am going to cast a negate on, but now they have another card in hand. So, ooh, that's really good. All right, that is nice. Grisly Salvage is fine. Do they find anything useful? They find a Raffine's Informant. So do I care if they cast Raffine's Informant? I think the answer is actually no. So they can attack me for 2. That's kind of whatever. And I can make a soldier if they don't cast something. And that is what's going to happen. So, okay. So if they're using this as an opportunity to resolve another Grizzly Salvage, that is okay. A Brazen Borrower is also really good. Nice. Now they're going to cast the Raffian's Informant, and I don't really care about this card. Like, they can't just, like, draw their way into another Greasefang, but I already have the Spell Queller to deal with that. Discarding Tear Asunder. Okay. And there, in fact, is a Greasefang. So let's go ahead and Spell Quell this. And one more land lets me do stuff, and oh, that's nice. All right, so I very much want the Selfless Spirit to protect against the Greasefang here. So like, if they draw a kill spell for this, then I no longer care because it's a Selfless Spirit, and I can still block the Satyr Wayfinders just fine. I have a bounce spell and the ability to play this. I can make a soldier token. So this is looking pretty okay so far. So they can attack with this if they really want to, but that's kind of whatever. I will block this. I'll take the 3 and go to 10 though. That's okay. So do I want to touch anything here? Yes, I'll make another soldier token. Oh, whoops, did I not have double white? What did I do? Oh, I don't have double white. That's fine, I can scry. Don't want that. Definitely do want that. So now I have a 2-turn clock if either of these creatures untap here. Yeah, this is pretty good. So I could provide 2, 4, and then 7 as a clock with Spell Queller backup, and they're only attacking me for 4. So I'm pretty happy about that. That's fine. I will go to 7, and now I'm going to cast our Brazen Borrower. Sweet. 3-0. Let's move on to the last round. Round 4 is here. This hand is kind of trash, especially on the draw. But I do have 3 lands now and a Fateful Absence that I don't mind getting rid of. So let's keep the hand, ship the Fateful Absence, and continue from here. Looming Marsh. All right, so it looks like we're probably playing against Greasefang for the 3rd time in a row here. Wow, I did mention that this deck was popular, but holy Jesus, guys. So granted, we did just beat them twice in a row, which is nice, obviously, but I still don't like being on the draw against these decks. So here, okay, Satyr Wayfinder is honestly kind of whatever. Let's see what they found. They found a Parhelion and an Overgrown Tomb, so that's pretty good for them. They took the Concealed Courtyard. So what I want to do here is simply a Darker Waste, and if they play the Greasefang, then I'll be able to have the combination of Brazen Borrower, the Greasefang, in response to the Parhelion trigger, and I can untap and Spell Quell, so that's gonna look pretty good. Here, a Satyr Wayfinder, I really don't care, especially since next turn I can play the Deserted Beach, and then I can Mausoleum Wander into the same Brazen Borrower play. So I don't actually have to hold up all of the mana for Spell Queller here. A Scimitar, oh my god, yes, that's so good. So granted, this isn't actually good until like turn 5 or something, but I am still relatively excited for that nonetheless. Also, this plays around a Fatal Push just fine too. So yeah, all in all, can't say I'm sad about this. So they can go ahead and attack, and that's kind of whatever. I can untap, make my land drops, hopefully get to 5 lands at some point soon. We are casting a Raffian's Informant. You got it. That actually gives me a preferable use for my Portable Hole too, because like, I don't really care about these 1/1s here, but I do kind of care a lot about a clock that involves like a decent 2/1, right? Especially if they come in multiples. Discarding Temple Garden. So that tells me that their hand is relatively full of gas too, which is not necessarily something I want to put up with. So let's get rid of one of these Raffian's Informants, and I will actually hold up my Mausoleum Wanderer as a blocker now, because I don't mind getting the Raffian's Informant off the table, and they have a flashed back Can't Stay Away to worry about too. So that opens up my ability to maybe, do I want to Spell Quell here? Or block here? Yes, I'm still gonna block. So blocking like this does open me up to exactly Spell Queller being Fatal Pushed if they do something here. But this is actually kind of nice, because if they kill this Rattle Chains, I don't care that much. But if they don't, now, oh, that'll be nice if I draw land. This also opens me up to being able to put Cemetery Illuminator in at instant speed, which is nice. Are you a Grizzly Salvage? Yes, you are. I'm okay with that. So they find a Greasefang and a Thoughtseize. They can't grab that. They chose the Greasefang, of course. Realistically, excuse me. Are they casting the Can't Stay Away? They are. So now I actually get extra value out of this, because I can Cemetery Illuminator now, get rid of the Greasefang that they're targeting, and now that entire turn's pretty much wasted. They also lose the ability to attack. That is so incredibly good for us. And we draw land? Let's go. Magic the Gathering. Yes, please. So here I'm going to take one of those Parhelions, I think. Unless there's an instant I want more. There is not. Okay. So let's take the first Parhelion. And now I have Spell Queller, and I can protect that Spell Queller with the Rattle Chains on top of the deck too. So we are in a pretty great place, not gonna lie. So we're going to use this to get rid of the Greasefang, and this even plays around something as devastating as like an Abrupt Decay. If they attack, I'm very much not going to block, and we'll just untap here. I don't really need to like touch anything or press any buttons. I'm already winning, so I will simply do this and grab an instant this time, so Grizzly Salvage. And now if I, after cycling the Shark Typhoon, if I see like an instant, say Lofty Denial or something, I can cast that off the top too with my Cemetery Illuminator. So here's this, they go down to 8, and now I still have 2 outs to a resolved Greasefang, right? Like I can protect my Rattle Chains, and I can still use Brazen Bower to bounce the Greasefang once it's resolved. So the Traverse is fine, that's whatever. Don't really care about that too much. Greasefang can resolve, and I'm going to let them take the Parhelion out of the graveyard and then use Brazen Bower to bounce this in response to that. So now that they've targeted it, I can Petty Theft here. And even if they have a Fatal Push for this Spell Queller, I can still protect it with Rattle Chains. So there's not really an option that will allow them to do the thing. So we win the game 1, and now, for the however many time in a row, we get to do this, take out all these portable holes, and hope to do the exact same thing as last time. I am very much going to keep the 7, thank you, deck. So we've got a turn 1 Wanderer, and then turn 2 Cleric, and turn 3 Illuminator, so even through a Thoughtseize, I'm still going to get to keep at least 1 piece of hate in my hand / on the table. That's pretty much all I can ask. So let's play Island Wanderer, and really see what they can come up with. Okay, so that screams Grizzly Salvage, right? So I guess what I'm going to do here is play the Plains, play the Cleric to pump the Wanderer. And if they want to like Fatal Push the Remorseful Cleric, I now have a 2-power Wanderer, so I can counter the Fatal Push. I'm in for this. And this is actually exactly where I wanted to have a card like Remorseful Cleric rather than a card like Rest in Peace, right? Because now, that's completely fine, actually. I don't care about that. So here I'm going to get rid of my Mausoleum Wanderer. I can still attack the Liliana down, and Cemetery Illuminator will even allow me to still, ooh, even better. So now I can Lofty Denial to counter an Isika's Chariot off the top, and then I can untap, have access to both Selfless Spirit and Spectral Adversary in case they try to kind of play around my ability to protect my Remorseful Cleric. But for now, a Rest in Peace would not have actually been able to attack down and kill Liliana, but here, we're pretty okay. A Thoughtseize? I legitimately think that's okay, because they can't take my Lofty Denial and my Cemetery Illuminator, so I'm just going to make them choose between the two. They take the Lofty Denial, okay. So now they can do that, that's fine. If they want to just resolve a Greasefang so that it can attack, that's okay too. Yeah, sure. But now I get to play the Adversary. Yeah, I'm just going to play the Adversary. And I still get to maintain a clock that's a little faster than theirs because they're already at 14. I'm at, oh, that's nice. That is a nice thing. And here I'm going to hold up the Spell Queller. I want to ideally use Spell Queller this turn, make them fight over that, and then I can still Remorseful Cleric. Sky Sovereign? Crap. Alright, well that sucks actually. So they can get rid of my Remorseful Cleric like that, and admittedly that is pretty annoying. So how do I get out of that? So I gotta be able to get rid of Greasefang, which I currently can't do. So I think I'm just going to play the Spell Queller and leave it up to my Selfless Spirit to do work here. All right. Oh, you know what? I should have done the Cemetery first, just in case. Okay, there wasn't. I was going to say, just in case there was a, excuse me, on the ridiculously off chance that there actually was a, what card am I trying to think of? Dang, now I can't think of the thing I was trying to think of. Oh, duh, another Selfless Spirit or another 2-drop I wanted on top of my deck. So playing that a little bit out of order had the ability to mess me up. Granted, it didn't actually matter in this specific case. They find nothing off of the Satyr Wayfinder, which is good. So, of course, they're looking for a copy of Parhelion to put in the graveyard and make this attack a lot better for them. But as it stands, if they just, like, do nothing but crew up the Sky Sovereign, kill one of my creatures, I still have 6 power. So that's not actually a win condition. If, however, they crew up, attack, kill this, and then can still come up with like a Fatal Push for one of these, then I can definitely lose from there. But if they can only kill one of these creatures right now, I'm still winning. So they do kill the Cemetery Illuminator. I'm okay with that. I could have sacrificed a Selfless Spirit, but like, if, I don't know, I don't really think I need to walk into anything. So here, let's draw a Rattle Chains. Oh, duh, I knew what was on top. We had the same Cemetery Illuminator. Don't mind me. So I'm just gonna hope we win anyway. No removal, no removal, no removal, no removal. Let's go, 4-0. I'll be nice and say GG to my opponent because they were pleasant previously, but good stuff all around. Alright, so 4 rounds of our preliminary events are over, and we 4-0'd, which is awesome as always. Yeah, great stuff all around. Honestly, this deck, we only played against 2 different decks, Mono Green and Greasefang, both of which are at least decent matchups, right? Like, Mono Green is actively pretty good because they just don't really appreciate counters, but we're not playing the same stuff as Bant Spirits is and Mono Blue, both of which really enjoy having access to Shacklegeist, which this deck is not playing. Initially, I was worried about going into the Greasefang matchup without access to Shacklegeist, but it turns out that it was completely fine. Like, we ended up having the Cemetery Illuminators, which I assumed were going to be awesome, and in fact ended up being even better than that. And then the Remorseful Clerics, of course, out of the board, did exactly the job we needed to into the Greasefang matchups, which was amazing. Also, having Cemetery Illuminator just cut out something like a Storm the Festival, even when that's like accidentally good, still pretty great. And then Spectral Adversary, I've already spoken its praises quite a few times beforehand. So, you know, I'm glad to see that it was just like able to increase our threat density and get the games closed out when we needed it to. And then, of course, a lot of games we did end up with 4+ lands in play because of our relatively high land count. However, that's actually great for us because that's kind of the entire point. Fateful Absence was definitely the card I wanted the least in the deck, so that might be the first place that I start to examine as far as things to maybe change out for later. However, we only played against a couple of different matchups, and Fateful Absence was relevant in both of those matchups. So maybe I'm just low on it because the rest of our matchup was so good the entire time that Fateful Absence wasn't really the card we needed more than once, but it was still completely fine. Archangel Avacyn never actually came up, but we also never played against Rakdos or another like ultra removal heavy deck. So I still like the idea of Archangel Avacyn, especially against Rakdos, since, you know, obviously removal sucks there. But against mono white, we really appreciate the Anger of the Gods mode at the back half, since, like I said, you can like pop a Selfless Spirit or something and then just like body your opponent's entire team. And that's kind of the life I want to be about in those types of matchups. So I'll be really excited to at least try that as well. Our sideboard, pretty good. Maybe 4 Skyclave Apparitions is too many. I might reduce that to 2 and then see what I want to do with that spot in other matchups. Like maybe play like a 3rd Aether Gust or something that costs less than 3 but still removes creatures, like, I don't know, March of Otherworldly Light, Seal Away, something along those veins. Even Knockout Blow for specifically the mono-red matchups might be something too. So there's lots of room to explore what we want to do with the sideboard options here. But overall, very impressed with this version of Spirits. We clearly got to clean house, and a 4-0 is always exactly what you want to see when you run into a 4-round event, right? So great times all around. I think I will be exploring the land base here. Also, I understand that I just played against Greasefang 3 times in a row, but like the Castle Ardenvale, I guess I'm going to issue like a formal apology to Castle Ardenvale because it was pretty good the entire time. So Castle, I am sorry that I doubted you. I am not a hater. There, I apologize to it. But yeah, overall, great stuff. Field of Ruin was actually really freaking great. So it got rid of what? A Larida Hydra that could have attacked us for a lot. It got rid of a land against Greasefang, and it was basically strip mine. So not even strip mine. It was actually better than that because we still got to get a basic. We didn't have to lose a land because their swamp was already in play. So like, yeah, just the best times all around. So yeah, I will be playing something like this again. This might actually be the way for me because something more mid-rangey like this actually kind of appeals to my taste. I like it a lot. So that's going to be my analysis. Clearly very happy about a 4-0, but also I understand that there is room for exploration after we just face a lot more matchups, right? Like just playing against 2 different decks 4 times in a row doesn't necessarily provide you with a complete matchup analysis. So I think I'm going to play this a few more times, really get a scope of how this specific version compares to the rest of the format. And then from there, we can decide whether I like this more than the mono blue list that I've been playing, or whether Bant might be more appropriate, or whether this flash style really just fits my playstyle a lot more than a deck like Bant, which is powerful, but doesn't necessarily do the things that I like doing, which is completely okay. Just because I happen to like spirits as a whole doesn't mean I have to like every type of spirits. And it doesn't mean that Bant is bad. Bant is actually really freaking good. It just doesn't do the things I like doing. That's okay. But either way, if you like what you're watching, make sure to click like on the video and let me know. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and I'll see y'all on the next one.